human child. In other words, he transformed himself into his original form. Krishna's to Bhagavan Swayam. That's from the Bhagavatam 1.3.28. So, purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, text 6, Sambhavami Atma Maya. Whatever is done by the Supreme Personality of Godhead is done by his spiritual energy. Nothing is forced upon him by the material energy. This is the difference between the Lord and an ordinary living being. The Vedas say, Parasya Shakti Ravidaya Vashruyate Swabhavaki Jnana Bala Kriyacha. That's the Shvetashvatura Upanishad 6.8, and also it's in the C.C. Majjalila 1365 in the purport. It is natural for the Lord to be untinged by material qualities. And because everything is perfectly present in his spiritual energy, as soon as he desires something, it is immediately done. The Lord is not a prakrita shishu, a child of this world, but by his personal energy he appeared like one. Ordinary people may have difficulty accepting the Supreme Controller God as a human being, because they forget that he can do anything, everything, by spiritual energy, Atma Maya. Non-believers say, how can the Supreme Controller descend as an ordinary being? This sort of thinking is materialistic. Srila Jiva Goswami says that unless we accept the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as inconceivable, beyond the conception of our words and mind, we cannot understand the Supreme Lord. Those who doubt that the Supreme Personality of Godhead can come as a human being and turn himself into a human child are fools who think that Krishna's body is material and that he is born and that he therefore dies. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 4th chapter, verses 28 and 29, there's a description of Krishna's leaving his body. Maharaj Parikshit inquired from Shukadeva Goswami, when all the members of the Yadu dynasty met their end, Krishna also put an end to himself, and the only member of the family who remained alive was Uddhava. How was this possible? Shukadeva Goswami answered that Krishna, by his own energy, destroyed the entire family, and then thought of making his own body disappear. In this connection, Shukadeva Goswami described how the Lord gave up his body. But this was not the destruction of Krishna's body, rather it was the disappearance of the Supreme Lord by his personal energy. Actually, the Lord does not give up his body, which is eternal, but as he can change his body from the form of Vishnu to that of a ordinary human child, he can change his body to any form he likes. This does not mean that he gives up his body. By spiritual energy, the Lord can appear in a body made of wood or stone. He can change his body into anything because everything is his energy. Parasya Shaktir Vividaya Shrite Swabhavaki Jnana Bala Kriyacha. Chaitanya Charitamrita Majjalila 1365 purport. That's also in the Upanishads. As clearly said in the Bhagavad Gita 7.4, Bina Purakatir Ashtada. That means the eightfold material elements are Krishna's elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. The material elements are separated energies of the Supreme Lord. If he transforms himself into the Archa Murti, the worshipable deity, which we see as stone and wood, he is still Krishna. Therefore, the Shastra warns, Arche Vishnu, Shiladir Gurushu Nara Mati. One who thinks that the worshipable deity in the temple is made of wood or stone, one who sees a Vaishnava guru as an ordinary human being, or one who materially conceives of a Vaishnava as belonging to a particular caste is not a key, not a key, that's right, a resident of the hell. The Supreme Personality of Godhead can appear before us in many forms as he likes, but we must know the true facts, janma karma chame devimya, evam yoviti tattvata, Bhagavad Gita 4:9. By following the instructions of sadhu, guru, and shastra, the saintly person, the spiritual master, and the authoritative scriptures, one can understand Krishna and then make one's life successful by returning home back to Godhead. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Shukravacha it yuktva siddhar tushnim bhagavan atmamaya pitro sampashato sadyo babuvas prakvata shishu. So Om Gana Chimadanda Shah Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmiritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So I'm just going to be able to comment on a few things here because there's a lot of points here. So the first thing is we hear how the Lord changes his body. Now let me be more specific about the language. The Lord doesn't change his body. He changes the way that people perceive the self-same body. I just want to really be specific about this and unpack what Srila Prabhupada said. Because if we say the Lord changed his body, that would mean just like we change bodies. So he's always situated. Well, he's not situated in his body. He is his body. There's no duality. In the material world, we have what? Duality. We are not our bodies. However, in the spiritual world, we are our bodies. You know, one sense, sometimes we hear you take a spiritual body, but that spiritual body is you. It's not that you can take the spiritual body and give up the spiritual body. It just becomes covered or dormant, that aspect of ourselves. It's like when we're sleeping, we forget who we are. And when we forget who we are, sometimes because we're in such illusion, when we wake up, it takes a few hours to remember who we are, where we are. Just like last night, I got in really late, and so I woke up in the morning, where am I? Oh, Slovenia. That's nice. 1 block from the temple. Okay, that's good. So, it didn't take me that long. It was like half an instant. I'm not that bad. So, but anyway, it's there, but we've just forgotten it. And when we go back to the spiritual world, we remember, and we are fully aware of our rus and situation and relationship with Krishna. Anyway, so sometimes, and it takes some time to remind us too, because that's why generally when a Vaishnava leaves his body, the Vaishnava goes back to where Krishna's pastimes are taking place within the material world, because he needs some basic experience of what he was doing or what his situation is in the spiritual world. You need that experience. So you could just like, hey, wake up. Just like if someone has amnesia, that takes some time. Amnesia means forgetting who you are. It takes some time. You have to have some experience. Your friends, your relatives come up to you and say, hey, Maharaj, you were a devotee in the Hare-Krishna movement. And your name was such and such, hey. And then after about a few years, you remember who you were. You were my Guru Maharaj or something like that. Hopefully that doesn't happen to any of us. So, anyway, so Krishna and his body are non-different. There's no duality. Material world is duality. You got that? So Krishna doesn't change his body technically. He changes the way that people perceive him. Like an expert, or here's another example, like an expert dramatist, or we say actor, can change the way he looks. He doesn't change his body, right? Like, we have some favorite actors. I'm sure you all have some favorite actors, right? Okay. I mean, I do. Well, probably they're all dead by now. Anyway, but they were in many different roles, in many different movies. And you'd always point out, hey, that's so-and-so playing this role or that role. So that's an actor. And with acting, there's this theory of acting called the method acting or Stanislavski method. Anyone studied that? No. Where you actually get into your role, right? Anyone's heard about that? Getting into your role means you actually completely absorb yourself into what you're doing and you forget about everything else. So Krishna is like that too. When he gets into his role of Lord Nrsingadev, he's not thinking of dancing with the gopis in Vrindavan. That's Rasa Bas. Everybody understands that? He gets into it fully. You hurt my devotee, Prahlad Maharaj. I'm going to rip your intestines out, you jerk, you rascal. So he's in that mood of anger. So this, of course, is called Yoga Maya, because here we're talking about Yoga Maya a lot. Yoga Maya means she serves the Lord by allowing him to forget different aspects of his, let's see, pastimes or different activities he performs and get into one thing. Because to think that the Lord changes his body, literally, that's Mayavad philosophy. In fact, the technical name for that is Parinam Vada, which means the transformation, Parinam Brahma Parinam, which means Brahman gets transformed. We know Brahman doesn't get transformed. It can't get transformed. Brahman means the greatest. Of course, Brahman has three aspects. Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavan Iti, Shabite. That is, Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Paramatma in the heart, and the impersonal Brahman. Whoops. So Brahman doesn't get transformed. What gets transformed is, Josh. Panchatattva ki jai. Panchatattva doesn't get transformed. I just say, offering obeisances. So what gets transformed is Shakti. Krishna's Shakti transforms in different situations. And that's why this verse that Prabhupada quoted in the purport is there. Parasya Shaktir Vividaya Shriyate Subhavaki Jnana Balakriyacha. For example, the Adi Shakti, original Shakti, or potency of the Lord, is Srimati Radharani. And then she expands as the principal gopis in Vrindavan, and they expand ultimately as the other gopis and the wives in Dwarka, then the Lakshmis, and then expand. Then you get Durga in the material world. So the Shakti can transform herself and perform different functions, but Brahman never gets transformed. I think that's a really important point, because I really want to clarify the language when say Krishna changes his body. He doesn't really change his body. He changes his appearance in the self-same body because he has different moods, and when Krishna has different moods, he manifests himself differently, and Krishna's the expert dramatic actor. Very, very important point to understand. And if one understands that, as Prabhupada comments in the purport, Janma Karma Chame Divyam, Evam Yo Veti Tatvata Chaktvadeham Puna Janma Naiti Mam Eti Sojana. Wow, 4th chapter of the Gita. Then one won't have to take birth again in the material world. So, the interesting thing is, okay, we already talked about Krishna can manifest himself in different ways, but the interesting thing is that Krishna manifests himself in unlimited ways simultaneously and in limited circumstances, which is actually what Prabhupada commented here as chincha. The one has to understand the Lord's and the Lord and his potencies are inconceivable. What does that mean? Okay, I'll explain that in clear language. That Krishna is there in Vrindavan dancing with the gopis in some universe and also in the spiritual world. Krishna in some universe is tearing apart Hiranyakashipu as Lord Nrsingadev. Krishna in some universe is attacking Ravan. Krishna in some universe is just being born, as we're hearing here. Krishna in another universe is acting as a fish, Matsya. Another universe, he's acting as a tortoise, Kurma. And Prabhupada says that Krishna has as many appearances, avatars, as waves of the ocean, which means unlimited. We just know about a few of these different manifestations or avatars of the Lord. And all these things are happening simultaneously. And they're all the same person. Advaita, Achyuta, Anadir, Adanta Rupam, Ajam Purana Purusham, Navayovanam Cha, Vedeshu Durlabam, Adurlabam, Atma Bhakto, Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. What does that mean? There's one God. There's one God. Just like, let's take a look at Panchatattva here. We have three members of the Vishnu Tattva here and the Panchatattva. Interesting thing is that Panchatattva has three tattvas. Think about it for a second. There's 5 tattvas on the Panchatattva, but 3 tattva categories. Does everyone understand that? Because there's 5 members of the Panchatattva. What's a tattva anyway? Okay, let's go back a little bit. So a tattva basically sometimes is translated as truth, but in this particular case it may be translated as category, eternal category. That's not a direct translation. The direct translation is tattva means that which is. In other words, an eternal thing, an eternal entity. Nasato vijate bhavo, na bhavo vijate sataya, ubiyar api drishno antas, 20 os tattva. The same thing. Those things that are tattvas are things that don't cease to exist, that continue to exist. So, okay, so Panchatattva. Let's go back to the Panchatattva. The attractive personalities here on the altar. So, you have 3 members of the Vishnu Tattva category. That's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda, and Advaita. Everybody understands that. And then one Shakti Tattva, that's Gadadhar Pandit Goswami. And then one Jiva Tattva, that's Srivas Thakur or Narada Muni. So, apart from that, all right, let's talk about the 3 Vishnu Tattva personalities on the altar. Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, and Advaita Acharya. They're actually all the same person. Oh my God. How's that possible? So, but acting simultaneously in different moods, and not only that, not only in different moods, but they're all in the same place at the same time. You know, it's one thing that Krishna can act in different moods in different places and different times. But here, they're all in the same place, and not only that, sometimes they're disagreeing with each other. And this is, if that's not inconceivable, you know, I don't know what is. If that doesn't, as we say in America, blow your mind, I don't know what's going to blow your mind. Right? Think about it. I mean, let me give you an example. You have Advaita Acharya and Lord Nityananda who had so many arguments. One time Lord Nityananda, after Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, went to Advaita Acharya's house with Lord Chaitanya. And Advaitacharya was feeding some prasadam, and Lord Nityananda said, this is not even a morsel. You're not giving me enough. And Advaitacharya said, just be satisfied, you reject Paramahamsa, with what I'm giving you. And Lord Nityananda got so upset, he threw some rice down. Some rice stuck on the body of Advaitacharya. And Advaitacharya started dancing in ecstasy. Now I am been contaminated, made crazy by the Salvaduta. So another instance is that they were bathing in the Narendra Sarovara. This is part of the Gunicha pastime. They were bathing in the Narendra Sarovara, and they were having a water fight. And Lord Nityananda and Advaitacharya were fighting each other in the water. And then as far as Lord Chaitanya and Advaitacharya, this is interesting, that Advaitacharya, he wanted to be respected by, he wanted Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to disrespect him, because Lord Chaitanya was naturally respecting Advaitacharya, as Advaitacharya was the senior Vaishnava. So Advaitacharya started preaching a bogus philosophy called the Yoga Vashishta philosophy. This is in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, this story. And Lord Chaitanya got so angry with him that he and Lord Nityananda proceeded to Shantipur, where Advaitacharya was living, and Lord Chaitanya started to beat him up. He was literally pounding him with his fists. It's amazing, isn't it? It's not, because sometimes we pound, not me. Sometimes some of you may pound each other with fists. Hopefully not Vaishnavas. So Lord Chaitanya was pounding Advaitacharya, and Sita, his Lord Advaitacharya's wife, was saying, "You're going to kill the old man." And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "I don't care." He's preaching his bogus philosophy, and Advaitacharya started dancing. Now he has properly dealt with me. So Advaitacharya and Lord Chaitanya, same person, right? Am I wrong? Someone correct me if I'm wrong. Advaita Chuta Nadi Rananta Rupam. In different moods, having pastimes with each other. That is so fantastic. You may say, as Prabhupada said, you may say, how could that be possible? Having a pastime with yourself. I've heard of people having multiple personality disorder, but they can only be one person at one time. I've had experience with people with multiple personality disorder. And for various reasons, they have that. But they're only one person at one time. They switch from one person to another. So here in different manifestations, they're the same body, same person, same place. They're interacting with each other. Wow. So you may say, yeah, impossible. No. God can do anything. He can do anything he wants. He's apta kama. He gets what he wants when he wants, which is what Prabhupada said in the purport. We don't get what we want when we want it. We may not even get what we want later on when we don't want it. It's like there's this bogus philosophy. There's a movie called The Secret. I don't know if any of you heard about it. That if you want something enough, the universe is going to serve you, right? I remember I watched this movie just to see what was happening. And people believe in that, if you want something enough. Well, you have good karma, you may get what you want after some time. But the Lord gets it instantaneously because his energies are first-class servants. So we shouldn't be incredulous and think, this can't happen. Anything could happen when you're dealing with Krishna. Anything could happen. Just like Prabhupada said, when people say, how can Krishna marry 16,108 wives? Well, Prabhupada said Krishna only had 16,108 wives. It was nothing for him. Everybody is Prakriti in relationship with Krishna. I mean, and if you look, I mean, even the material energy, the material energy is even inconceivable. Just like one of the things I like to do, of course, it's connected with Krishna consciousness, so, because it helps me explain Krishna consciousness to people who are scientific. I'd like to investigate different aspects of the material creation, like microbiology and, plant stuff, and all sorts of things. It's really interesting. Just like I was watching a movie the other day about mushrooms. Don't worry. Myceliums, actually, technically speaking. And I was just thinking how amazing this material energy is. How much more amazing Krishna must be. Just like let me just talk about a mushroom. So the roots of the mushroom or the mycelium are so complex. They're like more complex than the interactions of nerves in the human brain. And it enables these different entities to talk to each other. The mushrooms talk to each other. And the trees talk to each other. Oh my God. Don't worry, I haven't become a hippie. Trees talk to each other, hugging trees. So anyway, but it says, when I hear these things, it just reinforces my faith that someone has designed these things, and it's inconceivable because no body that I know of, other than Krishna, could have designed anything so absolutely complex. Whether we're talking about on the microcosmic scale or macrocosmic scale, it's absolutely inconceivable. So then what to speak of Krishna? If this world is inconceivable, Krishna must be inconceivable, Achincha Shakti, right? So, anyway, so this is one of the points I wanted to make. So, actually I took some notes about this. So, let's talk about the word Atma Maya. I think we have to end in a few minutes. But anyway, Atma Maya, which means, Prabhupada translates it, as by his energy, or by Maya as energy. But the word Maya, according to the Acharyas, means more than just energy. Listen to this, really intelligent, really important, how intelligent the Acharyas are. It means one's own will. It means illusion, as we know, because we often use that word Maya in relationship to illusion. We say, you're in Maya. You're in big Maya. You're in Mahamaya. So it means illusion. So in this particular context, in this verse, the Lord is putting his devotees into illusion too. It also means, a word connected with illusion is deceit. Cheating. Like Prabhupada says that Maya cheats us. Krishna is cheating us with this Maya or this illusory potency. How is he cheating us? He's making us think like an expert hypnotist can make us think we're an animal. Sometimes you see these stage hypnotists and they hypnotize someone and say, you're a donkey. And the person gets down on his hands and knees and starts braying like a donkey. So Maya has hypnotized us, tricked us, illusioned us. So we're thinking with this body, we start acting like we are this body. Another definition of Maya is intelligence. These are all statements of the Acharyas and the commentaries of this verse. Intelligence. So Atma Maya, Krishna's intelligence. Knowledge. Maya means knowledge. Can also mean knowledge. Desire. Maya can mean just this material energy itself. It can mean mercy. By Krishna's mercy. So you see all these different permutations of the meaning of Atma Maya. Atma means, of course, self in relationship to Krishna. Can further elucidate and enhance the meaning of this verse, and then ultimately energy. So ultimately, Maya is Krishna's Achintya Shakti. She's a first-class servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as we mentioned before, Krishna's Aptakama. The reason he's Aptakama is because he gets what he wants when he wants it. And first-class servant means Krishna's energies know what Krishna wants, and Krishna doesn't even have to tell them what he wants. As explained elsewhere by Srila Prabhupada, a first-class servant is like that. Second-class servant does what the master wants after they're asked, gladly. Third-class servant does what the master wants, but with a grudging mood. And 10th-class servant doesn't do what the master wants. So all these energies are just Krishna's energies, and he just wants something, and everything's happening automatically, and it's so beautiful. And Krishna's Achintya, Krishna's energies are Achintya, and the whole thing is Achintya, and it's so wonderful. What can I say? And that's Krishna. So anybody have any questions or comments about anything? Yes?
I have a question regarding you were speaking. You were speaking. You were speaking about the form, the body. That Krishna is his body.
Yeah.
It's not like when we are here, we are different from the body. And you also mentioned, if I'm not wrong, that also when we are in the spiritual world, the soul also.
Yeah, so there's no duality.
It's no duality. So my question is, why is in the Vedic literature stated the size of the soul like 1/10,000th of the tip of the hair?
Okay.
If in the spiritual world, obviously it's much bigger. the real, right? The real
Yeah. Obviously. Well, actually, in the spiritual world, it has no material dimensions either. But let me explain that 1/10,000th the tip of the hair, just to be a little scientific in this regard. I don't know if anyone here has studied